Hi, my name is Joyce Vidal Thornburg, and I'm a bereavement counselor with Hospice of the Valley. Grief impacts us emotionally, cognitively, behaviorally, socially, and spiritually. Some of these manifestations of grief are natural and expected, but what I hear often is this is so much harder than I could have imagined. So what makes the grief process so challenging? Why are we surprised by how deep and lasting grief can be? Have you ever seen what happens to a complex system of dominoes? When the first domino falls, it bumps into the second domino and so on, until all the dominoes have fallen. Or have you ever thrown a pebble in a still pond and watched the impact? Ripples expand outward in growing rings of motion. The death of the person is considered the primary loss, the pebble in our pond. Many consider this to be the only loss, but like the fallen domino, like the pebble in the pond, it sets into motion a chain reaction producing other losses, referred to as secondary losses. And these secondary losses bring grief. Often they go undetected, or we may not consider them significant enough to share. But it is important to acknowledge them, name them, grieve them as they arise. It's also important to note that secondary losses are not usually acknowledged by family and friends. Let's look at some examples of secondary losses. The unique companionship of that special person, the routine established as a rhythm of life, the conversation over meals, the personal and private nuances that are only known by the two of you, the plans, hopes, dreams, the future. For siblings, the birth order has changed. For parents, the challenge of how to respond when asked, how many children do you have? Was the deceased the primary earner in the family? The loss of access to banking because you've not learned how to bank online. Who am I now? I'm no longer legally married, but I feel married. Am I still a mother, a father, if my only child died? What about my status in the community? If it was connected to my partner, how does that impact my relationships and friendships? If I'm single, will my married friends continue to include me? If they do, will I feel like a third wheel? What was my role in my family system? If a parent has died, who will assume the role of matriarch or patriarch? If it's a partner, who will handle the finances, cook the meals, do home repairs, be the chauffeur, vacation planner, cheerleader? If your loved one was the major decision maker, now there's a void in that process. Making decisions yourself and seeking guidance from others can lead to confusion. If you were the primary caregiver, that may have become your primary purpose, and now that purpose is gone. Secondary losses range from minor and temporary to life-altering and permanent. How do we process these additional losses? One suggestion is to write on a piece of paper the name of your loved one who died at the top. Then think about the most significant changes you've experienced. After each one, list the impact it has had on your life. Writing in a journal is an excellent way to note your progress and release what you feel uncomfortable sharing with others. Seek professional help or join a confidential grief support group to be with others who understand your journey. It takes time and patience to work through grief. Secondary losses are a normal and healthy part of learning to live in a newly changed world. It's important to acknowledge the losses that have already taken place, recognize those that are currently taking place, and envision losses that the future will bring.